This is what I believe. I believe that this administration, in less than 30 days, in the midst of a massive collapse, and particularly a collapse in public opinion, it's going to be easy pickings here in 6 weeks. Just lay back.
Yes, the old James Carville, the Raging Cajun, the bimbo eruptions guy. He's apparently now the biggest bimbo eruption we have. The Pussius Bimbo Eruption. James Carville. He predicted, what was it now, 4 weeks ago? He's not much for making predictions, but he's considered to be a political genius by the wankers in the circle fest known as the American news media. Not on our side. Boy, are they not on our side. And a very good Monday to you, and welcome back once again. We continue to be at 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. James Carville needs to be ridiculed, just as Saul Alinsky and Rules for Radicals would have suggested, because mockery and ridicule, your most potent weapon, and the freakazoid Cajun, the psycho Cajun, author of the Bimbo Eruptions Doctrine, which is, that predated Pound Me Too, I think, didn't it? That was before Pound Me Too. It's the Bill Clinton era, and it's still alive and well, isn't it? And we're speaking of which, we're still waiting on the documents for the Jeffrey Epstein situation. Haven't quite been released yet, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that we're working on that. That's being worked on. So we've got a lot going on. President Trump in Palm Beach over the weekend came home last night aboard Air Force One and once again stood in the doorway on Air Force One, spoke to the press until they were exhausted from asking him so many questions, as he actually answered all of the questions. Everything from Ukraine to the Democrats. Oh, and the Democrats' poll numbers. Have you seen the Democrats' poll numbers? Honestly, it should be POLE. Their poll numbers, not very good. Not good at all. However, at the same time, the Washington Examiner with the headline, Trump maintains strong approval rating. Never mind what the Raging Cajun said, what James Carville said about the looming collapse of the Republican Party because of Donald Trump. Pretty funny poll numbers, unless you're a Democrat, in which case you might want to get into a tub like Frankie Five Angels and open a vein, maybe fill it with gasoline and spark your Zippo lighter, get it going just for the good old days. Trump maintains strong approval rating, avoids, quote, collapse, end quote, predictions. And it was James Carville and other Democrats that were predicting the complete collapse of President Trump's presidency and the poll numbers and the Republican Party. And that's because they're psychopaths and they're pathological liars. And a lot of them, they self-immolate, although not in the last few days, I guess. But hey, it's just Monday. And it's St. Patty's Day, so you got to look out for that. Speaking of which, St. Patrick's Day. Yes, I think corned beef and cabbage tonight, I think is what's happening in our house. The old corned beef and cabbage. You know, my best girl, her mother, no longer with us, off the boat from Ireland. Catholic schools and stone floors and all that good stuff from Ireland, from the town of Malahide, just north of Dublin in Ireland. Been there repeatedly, my best girl and I. Still a bunch of family there and all that good stuff. But Paddy's Day, so you got to take that into account. And keep your eyes peeled for all those drunk drivers out there because, it's Paddy's Day. Irish. What more need be said? Come on. So we got that. But the news media very upset, very, very upset. NBC has a terrible poll, and they're very, very angry, like Marvin the Martian, very angry with the poll numbers that their own NBC News poll came up with. President Trump more popular than ever, and the Democrats less popular than ever, and that means in decades. The Democrat Party has a lower approval rating than bunions, than hemorrhoids. Their approval rating, more people approve of hemorrhoids than approve of the Democrat Party. And there's no salve for the Democrat Party, no ointment. There should be an ointment for the Democrat Party in a tube, perhaps. But they're very, very upset. And MSDNC, they got that guy who rolls his sleeves up over at NBC. And he's, oh, no, the number of people that believe we're on the right track and headed in the right direction is real good. And it used to be real bad. And that means people like what Trump is doing. Very, very upset. Speaking of which, he ordered the United States military, largely Native American naval forces, to start putting a whooping on those Houthis in Yemen. Some call them Houthi, but I prefer Houthi because in English, TH makes the th sound, not the t. We're not just going to start speaking like Arabs because we got to blow a few of them up again. That's been going on since the Barbary pirates, and they really haven't evolved very much, have they? No, they haven't. They've gotten more sophisticated weapons to murder people with, but that's about it. But in any case, back to the poll numbers. The guy with the rolled-up sleeves at NBC, right track, wrong track, President Trump popularity, and Democrats' unpopularity, very, very upsetting. And that can only lead to more self-immolations and maybe more suicide attacks. We've had more suicide attacks by Democrats in the last 5 years than we have by jihadis. I believe that to be true inside the United States, so we can't go worldwide on that one because the Democrats, they're only committing suicide attacks against Republican members of Congress and police and then police again, then President Trump shooting him through the ear, suicide attack, a lot of suicide attacks by the Democrats. But this could really drive him around the bend, don't you think? I know Michael's very concerned. Michael Piercy, very concerned about the well-being and the welfare of the Democrat Party because there is the word meltdown is in headlines all over the place this weekend because Chuck Schumer really let him down by not firing on Fort Sumter. The Democrats want the Lizard King, a scaly reptilian that he is from another galaxy, the head of the Democrat Party in the United States Senate. And they're talking maybe they need that bartender who won a contest to become the Democrat leader in the Senate. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Sandy Cortez, as she was known in high school, at the beautiful suburban tree-lined street that she grew up on, and the beautiful home. Her father worked for an architecture firm. I looked on Google Earth at her high school. It's the nicest looking high school anybody's ever seen anywhere on the planet. But never mind that. She's rough and tumble. At least when she started trying to tend bar where she should have stayed. But the Democrat Party is such a clown car that, hey, let's get the bimbo from the bar and make her a member of the House of Representatives. And now let's make her the Democrat leader in the Senate. They're going to run her for president. President of what? You don't want to know. But amazing stuff. So back to the New York Post now. Trump ties for highest approval rating he's ever had. As more Americans say, U.S. is on right track than in any time over the last 20 years. So a 20-year high for the right track poll. That's pretty good. Pretty good stuff. Also, the Gridiron Dinner, an annual white tie dinner, not a black tie dinner, a white tie dinner, was held in Washington over the weekend. And it was like Hamas was holding the dinner because the left and its news media and Washington wankers circle fest in a hot tub. And my best girl and I, we went to the Gridiron Dinner one year. Joe DeGeneva, the great Joe DeGeneva and Victoria Tunsing invited my best girl and I to the Gridiron Dinner. I have my white tie and tails at home. I put it on for dinner. I just put it on for dinner around the house, around the apartment, But what did they do? They didn't set anything on fire, but they for the first time in 140 something years, they did not toast. They did not raise a toast to the President of the United States because they are the party of the Civil War, the first Civil War, as it's now called, when the Democrats fired on Fort Sumter with cannons because they wanted to keep their slaves and their bullwhips and their plantations because the Democrats now they've got illegal aliens, cheap labor, living all curled up in a dog bed in the basement by the hot water heater because They don't really have to house them or feed them anymore, so the Democrats have found a way to improve on slavery. It's illegal aliens. And the bullwhip, the love of the bullwhip. When I say the love of the bullwhip, they do love the bullwhip. Just look at those Robert Mapplethorpe pictures because remind you how much they love the bullwhip. Boy, they love the bullwhip. Yeah, so the Gridiron Dinner jokes about Trump, Musk, and Russia abound. And the New York Times is very excited about that. Now, why would they do that? He's got the highest approval rating ever. The greatest number of people believe we're on the right track. Americans recognize we're on the right track at any time in decades because the communist pig dogs, did they go out and loot anything after the Gridiron Dinner? You know how Democrats love looting places and stealing other people's stuff, usually in violent mobs. Remarkable. Yeah, so the Gridiron Dinner, jokes about Trump, Musk, and Russia abound. And but President Trump wasn't around to hear any of the barbs thrown at the annual D.C. event. The New York Times headline, they went because they're, I think, leading wankers, aren't they? They're right in the wanker leadership, no doubt about that. So they got the New York Times, and they were there. President Trump was not there. And they just throw rocks and Molotov cocktails like it's a Tesla dealership. Speaking of which, they continue to violently, criminally in mobs with Molotov cocktails, just like, the Bolshevik Revolution, 1917 in St. Petersburg, Russia. Molotov cocktails. They love firebombing things because they're not liberals. Keep this in mind. They're the left. And no gang of criminals in the history of humankind been more murderous, more violent than the left. And nobody's more illiberal than the left. Make no mistake. And keep in mind that Adolf Hitler's political party was called the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. Let's not, somehow they've airbrushed that out of history. Oh, no, they're just Nazis. Just call them Nazis. These guys, I'm telling you. So, big stuff. The Voice of America journalist speaks out on Trump shutting the outlet down. Quote, will be celebrated by communists, autocrats. And then they attacked President Trump because it's a permanent bureaucratic government entity. So it's naturally been taken over time by lefties, and they spend all their time attacking the United States of America. President Trump dismissed one of them at the White House, maybe Friday. It must have been on Friday, because he said, this woman asked a pretty outrageous question of Trump when he's fielding all questions. And he said, who are you with? I'm with VOA. And he's like, yeah, right, that figures. You're defunded. Let's defund NPR too. Even more importantly, the largest taxpayer-funded propaganda network anywhere on the planet Earth, and it's for the Democrat Party to brainwash and indoctrinate. Oh no, things are real good under Joe Biden, but aren't real good under Trump. Also, there were big storms, wild storms. Now, the body count across the United States, 40 people killed in these storms, tornadoes, and destruction. Pretty incredible stuff, I've got to say. And I'm keeping my ear to the ground on that for you, and we'll keep you updated as the day progresses. Man, also, the Democrats really angry about this because they love jihadis. They love Mahmud Khalil, who's in a prison in Louisiana, right? I hope he likes it there. It's send him to Gitmo, probably, and maybe waterboard him. Just the Perrier spritz, give him a little Perrier spritz. But the Democrats, they love the jihad. They're all in with the jihad. Trump administration slashes millions more in grants to Columbia. That's Columbia University, not the country. Now, I've got to ask, why are we giving hundreds of millions of tax dollars to an extremely wealthy, elite Ivy League institution? Why would my tax dollars go to fund Columbia University? And the corrupt answer is because corrupt lefties that went to school there find themselves in a position in adult life to corruptly corrupt everything that they touch. And so we fund the left-wing indoctrination and propagandization outlets like Columbia University. Barack Obama went there. He doesn't like us at all. The Washington Post says, nervous about Trump. international tourists scrap their U.S. travel plans. Really, they're talking about like 12 people from Canada. But I'll explain this ridiculous story. And I got to say, if you're the type of person who doesn't want to come to the United States because of Trump, then you're probably a jihadi, like their new hero, Mahmud. They love Mahmud Khalil because he wants to kill all the Jews. And so do the Democrats, which is kind of peculiar. But there it is. President Trump challenging the Joe Biden pardons of all the Democrat Party allies because somebody pardoned them using an auto pen when Joe Biden wasn't even around. But the Washington Post and CNN think that's just fine because they're not news organizations. They're Democrat front groups. These poll numbers, unbelievable. We got Kamala Harris in the news, Marco Rubio doing big things, Elon Musk, Tesla, Doge, and Democrat Party mob violence across the country. And what does a Democrat do when he's so ashamed of his Tesla that he has to get rid of it? What's a Democrat to do? I've got that coming up. Senator Mark Kelly. And we are at 888-630-9625. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Now, the Democrat Party is the Socialist Party, of course, Bernie Sanders and AOC, and the Socialist Workers Party. They're not on the side of civilization of the United States of America. And they love going around calling everybody Nazis while they terrorize every Jew on an Ivy League college campus, particularly in the Northeast, but not exclusively. Terrorizing Jews everywhere you go. They should be wearing armbands. I've been saying this for years. But I've got a lot of stuff in front of me today because it was a weekend. It's Monday. So they've been real busy attacking and vandalizing. Let's grab a quick call, Michael. Let's go to Steve, calling from Orlando, Florida. Steven, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Steve.
I thought this was a funny story that I read. It's on Fox News, but it was a man that Michael Lewis, he's 42, he's in New York City, and he drew a swastika on a Jewish man's vehicle. But the guy that drew the swastika was Jewish. I thought that was kind of humorous.
Well, the Democrats are really confused. They're mentally confused. They're intellectually confused. And it was, what kind of a car was it, Steve?
It was a Tesla Cybertruck.
It was a Tesla Cybertruck. And dude went and drew a swastika. And I believe this is the one where he got the swastika backward, didn't he?
Yes, and he was on tape, too. They had reporters there, and he ran from the vehicle and came back hours later, and the police was still waiting on him, and they arrested him there.
Yeah, that's why they want to defund the police, because, the rising tide of Nazism in the name of liberalism. Yes, and President Trump sent a whole bunch of Tren de Aragua Venezuelan gang members out of the country on an airplane. A judge promoted by Barack Obama, threw himself in front of the airplane on the runway, kind of metaphorically speaking, and tried to stop the gang members from being expelled from the United States because, Obama appointed judges. They want more crime and more murder in America. They want more gang members from Venezuela that are career sex offenders, child sex offenders, loose on the streets of the United States because the Democrats are anti-civilizational. They're not liberals. They're the left, completely different ball of wax. Amazing stuff. But the Democrat judge, he jumped in, and this is kind of an interesting guy because he went to Yale Law School. Everybody went to Yale Law School. Michael Pierce, he went to Yale Law School and Harvard, and he didn't really, but might as well. He'd be an even bigger idiot. What I mean to say is that you'd be a complete idiot if you went to Harvard and to Yale, and thankfully you didn't. So now you're So we got that going for us. But this guy, he went to Yale Law School, and he was a member of Skull and Bones, the secret society at Yale, very fancy. And who else was a member of Skull and Bones at Yale Law School? Oh, George W. Bush was. So George W. Bush actually chose his old Skull and Bones pal and put him on the federal bench. But we know that everything went terribly wrong because Barack Obama elevated him in the federal judiciary. And now the guy is out there saying, oh, no, we can't expel members of Venezuelan street gangs just because they're career criminals. And the Democrats waved him into the country by the hundreds, nay, by the thousands. But El Salvador to imprison 300 Tren de Aragua gang members deported from U.S., and the news media are really upset by that, and it's peculiar, to be sure. Federal judge orders 2-week stop on Trump deportations targeting Tren de Aragua members, the notorious violent criminal gang from Venezuela that the Democrats have moved to the United States because they like murder. They like murder more than most people do. Most people don't like murder, but the Democrats, they're fond of murder. You know, remember, the problem is not our guns, it's their sons, because they're not raising normal people, are they? But I do want to say, I want to get back to Steve, our caller from Orlando, who checked in just a couple of minutes ago, because he's talking about the Democrats, too, and the Democrats, they're into all kinds of very bad things, but no very good things. The attacks on Tesla dealerships and Tesla vehicles, now nationwide, commonplace. If you own a Tesla, if you drive a Tesla, we had a Democrat rent Tesla, one of the Tesla space trucks, and he set himself on fire. He rented it. He didn't buy one or steal one. Not very ingenious person. But he rented one, and he went to the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada, where he detonated the truck with himself inside and blew himself up and killed himself. He was planning on murdering a whole lot of people because he filled the Tesla vehicle with nail bombs, but the nail bombs only blowed him up. I'm aware that that's grammatically incorrect, but he blowed himself up real good. Isn't that amazing? And now we've got Democrats all over the country that are attacking Tesla vehicles and spray painting and painting and scratching, usually swastikas, because while they call for Israel to be wiped off the face of the earth between 9 a.m. and noon at Columbia University and Harvard and at UPenn and every place else, which is what the Nazis would do and the Hamas is doing today, modern-day Nazis, right? The Democrats, I've got to say, they're really something. They want to terrorize Jewish students at Ivy League universities. They won't allow Asians in because Asians work too hard and get good grades, so they must be punished because the left is here to destroy civilization. But we've got example after example after example all over the country of attacks on Tesla vehicles. I've shared with you stories in the Washington Post and the local television news about the myriad attacks on Tesla vehicles and people driving Teslas in the D.C. area being threatened with violence by criminal Democrats who are pro-Tren de Aragua, they're pro-Hamas, they're pro-open borders. They have crooked Ivy League judges that try to stop you from enforcing the law and kicking mad rapist, murdering gang members out of the country. They love the guy who lied on his student visa application because he's a jihadi, and he lied on his green card application because he's a jihadi, and they ask you about that stuff when you're applying for your visas, and he lied there, and now finally Marco Rubio is talking about that. I've been talking about that since the beginning of this thing, and I've got to say I'm right again, and he should be catapulted into the Atlantic Ocean based on his lies when he was applying for first a student visa and then a green card. But never mind that. And I tell you what Steve was talking about from Orlando. Deranged, here's the story in the New York Post, deranged anti-Elon Musk dad The fact that he's a dad, I don't think is necessarily one of the most important elements here. Deranged anti-Elon Musk dad scrawls swastika on New York City Cybertruck in broad daylight. And it's the only time you use the term broad daylight is when somebody does something outrageous, right? But he's a deranged anti-Elon Musk dad scrawls swastika on New York City Cybertruck, just like the one that the guy self-immolated in Las Vegas, because there's a lot of mental illness. We just call them Democrats. In broad daylight, leaving Jewish owner stunned. Quote, I feel myself burning inside. That's kind of a peculiar play on words, I think, when you're talking about swastikas on your vehicle belonging to a Jewish guy and you're Jewish. A deranged anti-Elon Musk dad scrawled a swastika on the side of a Cybertruck. That's an Elon Musk electric vehicle, of course. A Tesla in Brooklyn, New York, in a brazen attack, caught on security footage, like everything, and viewed by the New York Post. The Washington Post doesn't care. They don't cover it because even their Jews would kill the Jews at the Washington Post. It's the rise of fascism in the United States under the guise of liberalism. There was a book from decades ago called Liberal Fascism, and it's got the smiley face with a Hitler mustache on it and all that good stuff, and kind of fun, And Jonah Goldberg wrote that Liberal Fascism, and he got a lot of stuff right early on. Now we see the fascism percolating in under the left. I mean, again, keeping in mind that the Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party was the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany, but that's been airbrushed out of the history by the left in the media, New York Times and academia. First draft and second draft of a corrupt version of history. So back to the swastika scrawling Democrat in Brooklyn, New York, on the Tesla vehicle. The lefty loon was so triggered by the $80,000 electric Tesla truck parked on Washington Avenue in Prospect Heights, where lots of hipsters live, that he double parked his Subaru with the two car seats in the back. He had two car seats, like he's got monkeys or something. I don't know. Two car seats in the back. He burst out and appeared to deface the car. It's on video. The Cybertruck is owned by Avi Ben Hamo. Avi Ben Hamo, who is Jewish, and he was stunned. You shouldn't be stunned. And here he is standing in front of his vehicle with scrawled on the door of his fancy vehicle, electric vehicle, Elon, it says, equals, and then a swastika backward. It's not rolling the right way because they're nothing if not ignorant. Bunch of ignorant sluts, but never mind that. I feel myself burning inside, Ben Hamo said. Oh, sure, burning inside. Back in his Subaru, the hateful alleged vandal tried to speed off.
In Michigan.
And Michigan. It wasn't in Michigan, though. Ben Hamo, little audio, if that's what happens in radio, who watched the attack, Ben Hamo, who watched the attack from the sidewalk across the street, stood in front of the Subaru to block his getaway, which is good. What are you doing? Thundered Ben Hamo, who quickly called 911. The suspect then ditched his Subaru in the bike lane and ran. Said now he's in trouble. You can't put your Subaru in the bike lane. That'll really upset the Democrats. Then they might have to immolate him before he can self-immolate. About 90 minutes later, and this is what Steve was talking about, he returned to the scene, that'll be the scene of the crime, to retrieve his Subaru, only to find 4 cops who he wanted to defund, and a New York Post reporter and photographer waiting for him. He was promptly handcuffed and arrested. He's right now, as we speak, being waterboarded in Guantanamo Bay and being beaten. They stuffed him into a duffel bag, and they're using him as a boat bumper on an American aircraft carrier, which I think is good. It's very uncomfortable. Michael Lewis, 42 years old, he self-describes as a geek of all trades, master of few. He doesn't understand their old sayings about this. And he was charged by police with aggravated harassment. I think he should be deported, even if he's an American. His lawyer, Mark Lucarelli, refused to apologize for his client's actions, adding the Brooklyn district attorney released Lewis without pursuing charges because they're Nazis. See, the thing about people in New York that call themselves liberals is that they're so close to being Nazis that there's very little daylight between them. There was zero damage to the car, the lawyer lied. That's why they call them liars. He did not commit a crime of any kind. They just lie about everything. They just lie and lie and lie and lie, said Lucarelli, the lawyer, who said his client, too, is Jewish. And the hateful symbol was scribbled in dust. It's just dust. It's hard to say, but never mind that. Amazing stuff. Ben Hammo, the owner of the Tesla, was stunned by the random act of hate. Well, I guess he doesn't get his news right place. Probably listens to NPR when he's in his Tesla and watches CNN when he's at home. So everything he believes to be true is false, and everything he believes to be false is true. We really need to defund NPR and PBS. Big Bird is $1 billion enterprise. Why my money goes to $1 billion private industry enterprise, I don't know. Why my money goes to Columbia University, I don't know. It's because the left has secured enough power to corrupt absolutely everything. It continues. People hating Elon Musk is one thing, but to do something like this is next level. I'm speechless. That's just wrong, said Ben Hammo, the owner of the Tesla, who's 45 years old. I don't understand how someone thinks because I bought a car, it gives them authorization to do this. Funny use of the word authorization. He's clearly a liberal, too. He lives in New York and at least parks in Brooklyn in Prospect Heights, and he drives a Tesla that's like a $100,000 vehicle or something. So Tesla vehicles, dealerships, charging stations, and their owners have found themselves the target of coordinated attacks by left-wing groups since Musk's new Department of Government Efficiency. They're against government efficiency, but they're in favor of Mahmud Khalil, who wants to kill all the Jews and belongs to radical Islamic jihadi terrorist organizations. And he's here to destroy Western civilization. The key organization that he belongs to literally calls for the total destruction of Western civilization. And the Democrats applaud him, and they're going to have a parade for him because, you know, the rail spurs and the gas chambers are just around the corner, the Democrats. So amazing. You want to slash government spending? I'm going to have to burn cars, maybe kill myself, like the guy in Las Vegas killed himself. Cybertrucks in particular are bearing the brunt of the attacks in what some have coined as Elon derangement syndrome. See, it's EDS like TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Thursday's incident is at least the third documented attack on a Cybertruck in New York City in recent days. So just one city, just one vehicle, just recent days. A few blocks away, a different Cybertruck was egged and smeared with dog poop. They put up signs recommending that people should smear their dog poop on Tesla vehicles. They're something. And here's another one. Northern Virginia, somebody with their Tesla vehicle vandalized a Democrat, a violent criminal, a Democrat, wrote on it, "I fund fascism." They don't know what the word fascism means. Their brains are very small and dysfunctional because they're insane. But that's perfectly normal stuff. And KK Kardashian. Frenzied fans dub Kim Kardashian a Nazi for a picture of her posing with a Cybertruck from Musk's Tesla. The left is eating their own babies now. They've just been flossing with their intestines up till now, but now they're eating them. They're demented. They're violently, criminally insane. They started the first civil war in the United States of America, firing on Fort Sumter as they wanted to keep their slaves and their plantations. But amazing stuff. And people all over Twitter, I like to call it X. A friend of mine just had his 5-year-old Tesla vandalized, And he's a staunch Democrat from a family of Democrats and wanted an electric car to do his part in moving toward a brighter future. Now he's a victim. Well, lucky him, because there is no status more exalted than that of victim for Democrats. Now he gets to be a victim, even though he's a white liberal from the suburbs. And you see what the demented Democrat Senator Mark Kelly did? I've got that coming up, too.
Right, I'm a bigot, I know, but for the left.
Ah, yes. So this Democrat senator who he might have been hopeful for a minute, he turned out to just be another idiot, even though he's an astronaut, idiot astronaut. Democrat Senator Mark Kelly, he got rid of his Tesla, and he bought a giant 8-cylinder Chevy Tahoe, which he now drives around. These people couldn't be bigger clowns if their goal were to become bigger clowns. All right, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Phil, calling from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Oh, Phil, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Mr. Plant, I love that characterization of the big V8. Oh, that was funny. Look, the media, they simply cannot tell the truth. I have a friend of mine who's a diehard Democrat, and he calls me and beats me up for about 45 minutes every time we talk, but I still love him like a brother. But he calls me on Friday and says, Donald Trump declared war on the Hispanic people. And he got like 3 stories mixed up. He got the story about the gang members being taken out. He got this, and Trump using the 1870 statute to do it. He got the Hutus being bombed. And he got the story mixed up. All 3 stories from the media, they took pieces and constructed their own fantasy about what Donald Trump was doing. And I felt so bad for my friend. I was like going, okay, I haven't seen this, but I'll have to see what's going on with this. But I tell you, they will not tell the truth, Mr. Plant. So I'm glad you're there and everybody at WMAL's there, because without you folks, we wouldn't get the truth.
That is a fact, Jack. That is 100% true. Your story is I'm sorry to say, Phil, not unique to you, because there are people that call themselves Democrats and they call themselves liberals all over the place. And they get their news from out. In fact, we've got some MSDNC stuff today that's just berserk. That's just a mental illness. These people should be dragged away by people with nets. They should be put in. What happened to padded rooms? We don't have enough padded rooms anymore. We need to bring back the padded room. I don't want them to hurt themselves while they're throwing themselves against the walls trying to escape.